There we go. Bump that, Teague. Let it ride. Fore. Hey, welcome. Game 17, Loopers for Life podcast, powered by Talgrace Marketing Media. Got my co-host right here, T-Rock.
What's up?
Cousin T-Rock from the block. We are missing our other host, Joey Sears, who's in the French Lick. I think he's like running carts for all these senior women and like he's putting the towels on the car cover seats?
I don't know, but this is going to sound terrible. There's a bunch of old women playing French Lick and you're Joey's
They're old women, but these women are the historically best women that have ever played the game.
But
I mean, they're records that are up there, the major champions, and we're talking about the senior LPGA Legends tournament, that is Legends Championship that's held in French Lick.
You got to be like 75. How old do you got to be to play this?
How do you get to be a legend other than being in French Lick and being in Larry Bird's home spot?
I don't know, man.
Larry the Legend. And then speaking about legend, I mean, this is going to be a legendary show. Cousin Teague said, hey, you know what? It is time to get another guest, and let's get the best instructor in the state of Kentucky.
I've been talking about this
The
forever.
hottest instructor in the state of Kentucky. And yes, and I say he is hot because he is my life partner. Can I welcome to our show, Loopers for Life, Corey Kaufman. What's going on, Corey?
I was just sitting here feeding my hot body my chicken baked goodness.
I've seen that hot body. It looks a lot like Jabba's when you're, when he's sitting there with Princess Leia by his side.
Oh, exactly right. Exactly right.
Where are you at right now?
Everything.
Corey, where are you at right now?
Currently, sorry, my mouth.
Oh my gosh! So hold on, time.
He's on a podcast and he's sitting there
he's
just
sitting
stuffing
there
his
just
face.
eating. Corey Kaufman is the lead instructor at the Golf Academy here in Louisville, Kentucky. Somebody who is very dear to my heart. Corey has been very involved with teaching the game. Some of the best state players that have come through junior golf over the last 10 years have been groomed by Mr. Kaufman here, and you can see it because they are balling everywhere on top of the leaderboards. Corey has also made his way, because of these college successes, to teaching on the pro ranks, and you are currently traveling with Louisville's very own Jarrett Wolf, who is on the Korn Ferry Tour playing in their tour championship, but has earned the right to go ball out on the big stage next year on the PGA Tour. So you're up in Ohio, is that correct, Corey?
Yes, sir. Up in Columbus, heading to Ohio State Scarlet Course, where the Nationwide Children's Championship is.
There you go. And
so is this a Korn Ferry Tour event?
This is the Korn Ferry Tour Championship Playoff Series. So they are doing the same thing that the PGA Tour is doing, to where they are taking the guys who are in the top, I'm going to say 70 because that's what they did last week at the Northern Trust, top 70, and they move on to play the Tour Championship finale.
I got it.
At Victoria National next week in Evansville, Indiana.
Got it.
So Corey, tell me, what's been the experience? How excited is Jarrett for his opportunities next year?
Oh man, he's excited. I think the biggest thing is just it's kind of like what we text back and forth when he got it, and we obviously had a couple phone calls, but it was more like, let's get the excitement out of the way, and then let's continue what we're doing. You always hope when you're working with a player that they peak at the right time, and obviously, he's playing well right now. He missed the cut last week, but he was exhausted after the week before, so which is fine. He played great first round, actually, still hitting the ball well. So just kind of figure out some of the rough shots and short game.
Must have went through a dry spot, but you went through a spot right there, and so. But even like you said, he missed the cut last week. My understanding, is that regardless of what happens this week, it's a preparation for next week because he's already exempt into the finale in Evansville. Correct?
Yeah, he's in.
So, Corey, you had talked to me one point about how Jared's game is going to transcend to the PGA Tour, and it was kind of fascinating what you had told me because it was way more nerdy golf than I had ever really kind of heard before.
That was a few years back, right?
It was maybe a couple years ago.
Right.
I don't know. But
right when you started working with him, I think.
So, talk to us a little bit about how his game is going to look at the PGA Tour.
Well, so I think it's going to transcend pretty well. He's really good with his 4, 5, 3 irons, which go way further than our 4, 5s, and 3 irons. So, he's really good from that 200 to 240 range. That's a huge strength of his. And that's where the majority of the PGA Tour golf is played, is from that range. And that's after, hitting the ball 310, 315, off the tee. So he's got the length, he's got the accuracy off the tee, which is huge. If you're 210, 215, 220 from the rough, that makes it pretty tough.
Right.
He's a very accurate driver of the golf ball, really good long iron player. We're working on right now getting a little more height on his long irons, because the greens are only going to firm up. This week will actually be a great test. I mean, this golf course is really good, but it's still not tour caliber length.
Right. It is an old school. The Ohio State Scarlet course is one of the best courses in America. It's a Mackenzie McAllister, who has designed the golf course. I mean, the guy who co-designed Augusta National and Cypress Point and Royal Melbourne. I mean, all the greatest golf courses, but it is definitely kind of landlocked. Now, they do have 36 holes there, and I don't know if they play a combination on that golf course or not, but regardless, a great golf course, a great event. And then with this week, with the weather being firm and fast and kind of smaller greens, right, Corey, with a lot of with a lot of undulation. I have been fortunate enough to play it before.
Okay.
So I think that, like he said, it's going to be a great test because of the par threes, and that's what Mackenzie, Mackenzie's known for that.
Yeah, par threes are fantastic. Par fours are, there's some tough driving holes, some really good driving holes. But, I mean, he's still going to have wedge, 9-iron in, most of the par fours. Par fives, all reachable. I think the longest, there's only 3 par fives. I think the longest, he hit a 3-wood in on one just because he was trying to do 3-wood, but on one of them. But the rest of them are, you hit a good tee shot. Well, I take that back, 2 of them. You got 1 3-wood, and the rest of them are typically long irons. But what's surprising is it's actually soft up here. The ball is hitting and not rolling.
A lot of water.
I know, but the greens are starting to firm up a little bit. They're very, very firm, very bouncy, not a lot of spin, and the rough is pretty thick. So as far as around the green, it's very tour-like. Distance-wise, lengths-wise, it's still not quite, to I think what the tour's like. But to be honest, what's great about his game is you look at the guys who come out early and win quick. They're all long ball hitters, straight drivers. You know what I'm saying? And that's him. So, he could still go out, on tour and miss a couple cuts, but with every tournament have the potential of winning.
Oh, right. For sure. So as a coach, I mean, like this week, Corey, what are you really going up there and looking on? Are y'all actually working on some things as you lead into this event and him, kind of getting back his focus and getting on track? And kind of tell me about your experience that you have seen now coaching inside the ropes on this level. So our goals this week is to, I always text the guys ahead of time, hey, what are we doing? What do we want to do? What's your goals? And his goal this week is to tighten up some short game shots around the green and into some deeper rough. That's step 1. Step 2 is continue the good putting. So we just wanted to make sure we've got some checkpoints that we look at for putting to make sure the putter's doing what he wants it to do, to roll accordingly how he wants it to. And then also just the full swing. Full swing's in a really good spot. It's it's a little bit constant work in progress to make sure it stays there because he gets quick back into his old habits. So we're just kind of hammering those today. This morning we're going to do technique for a little bit, and then quickly switch off into gameplay modes. So, and when you say he gets quick into his old habits, Corey, what kind of ball flight difference do you see? I mean, is it a difference of him hitting a laser or him hitting it and curving 10 to 15 yards?
So when he gets into his old tendencies, he gets elbows get really wide, halfway back, hands get too deep, club gets up, face gets shut. So what happens is if he doesn't come up out of it and shallow it enough in time, he'll hit these kind of floater right shots, and the club will kind of be diggy because the club face is trying to going from shut to open. So he'll hit these kind of floaty, right shots as a miss, and then his good shot will be this low bullet, which is great, but isn't going to hold the greens. So once he gets the club in a better spot halfway back and gets the club where it needs to be, the face squares a little bit better. He's able to get it a little bit more on a level plane coming into the ball, and then the ball flight goes up. So
Okay.
we
All
run
right.
through line.
T.
There's that nerdy golf I was talking about.
T, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
What did you just hear right there?
Hey, I heard him say Diggy. He said something about Diggy.
I heard floaty. I was like, I'm sitting here thinking it's hot today, and you know what? I want a floaty too. Can I have a floaty?
What was it? He used the word Diggy. I think.
There was Diggy. There was a plane in there. There was a plane in there somewhere too, Corey. And this is why. This is, and you know what else I heard? We talked about this last week, and I told you, Coffin. I said, that is my ace right there. Mm-hmm. And with him,
Ace and Gary, baby.
Ace and Gary, and as the new Gary, there is no doubt that you are a calculated coach. And one of the things I want to know, like when you talk to those players and you're working with these elite level guys that are trying to make a living, I mean, they are out there cashing checks or paying back the people that are allowing them to go play. As you see their level of the game and the difference between a floaty and a low bullet, where do you look at it in the strokes gain field? Because I know that's something that we preach hard to our academy, and is very important when we look at it as we talk forward today about who's the best in the strokes gain area and where they're coming. Because you made a very valid point about Jarrett, and I mean, the guys who are in strokes gain above 200 yards are usually the best ballers in the world.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those are the Roy McIlroys of the world, the Justin Thomases. I mean, those guys can hit irons and flight them in there and hold their greens. And as the competition moves to the next level, and when you meet all these different guys that you're teaching to have different abilities at that level right now, Corey, I guess really what area of strokes gain is most important to you as the calculated coach and the mad scientist? That is a mad scientific response, but floaties.
floaters. It's all my sun damage in my eyeballs. I got a lot of floaters. It's funny. Jared and I had a great conversation. This is about 3 months ago, and I've actually showed the text back and forth to some of our players because he was. Everything felt good, but still struggling, not scoring like he was. And so he pulled up last year's stats that he keeps, and we did a bunch of screen sharing, that type of stuff. And we're like, all right, what's the low-hanging fruit here? Where can we start picking stuff off to where we can turn this thing around a little bit, especially when you feel good about it, right? Because when you feel good, you should be playing well.
That's right.
So what's going on that's hindering that? So, he was going in on the putting and that type of stuff. And so we kept ciphering through, and I was like, look, dude, like, yes, you're only losing like 0.5 shots off the tee ball, but look what's going on here. Basically 16% of your tee shots are either in the rough, in a fairway bunker, or in a hazard per round. I was like, dude, you can't score from there.
Wow.
And he's like, man, I didn't notice that. We got to hammer the driver. So ever since that conversation, and we've been hammering his driver because his driver's always been a strength. And ever since we did that, man, he's taken off.
Right.
So if you're not keeping stats, you don't know that. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not going through your stats and reviewing them and looking at them objectively, you're not finding that answer. So, that was a great conversation that him and I had about the stats, comparing, looking, all this stuff we were doing to try to figure out where the low-hanging fruit was to make the quickest improvement because we needed something quick. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not like he was really in trouble in the top 25, but it was trending in a very nervous way. And so, you just don't want to be in the final tournament having to do X. You don't want to be in that situation if you can avoid it. So that was our goal with it.
Which there's a lot of people on the field that are doing that this week.
Oh, well, I did. I mean, if you saw, I mean, you saw just the last tournament. I mean, the guy doubled the last. All he do is make, I think, bogey or par, and he like chunked a chip and then made double, lost the tournament. Now, I mean, he'll get his tour card, but I mean, that's pressure.
Yeah.
So you want to avoid that as much as possible.
You mentioned keeping stats, Corey. Is that something you would suggest any kind of serious player does on a pretty serious level? I
mean, you have to. If you want to improve to a level that you've never been to before, then how do you know what to do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if you've never been to a level, you want to keep stats, and then that shows you what you need to do in order to get to that level. Now, if you're a 7 handicap and you're playing like a 13, well, that's different. You know what to do to get back to a 7. If you don't care to get any better, then that's fine. You probably don't need stats. But if you're trying to get to a spot that you've never been to before, you got to have some sort of playbook and some sort of guideline that's going to tell you what to do. You know, and to me, stats are the best way to do it because it's right there in front of you. It's not objective. It's not emotional. You know what I'm saying? And it just tells you what you put in. So
and when you were playing, before the stats were the thing, when you were playing, I mean, is that something that you paid attention to as well?
You know, no.
I asked hard questions, Corey. You should know me.
He's being honest.
I was like, you asked knowing that answer. But like, you know, and this is an excuse. So when I say that, but like now, like they've got apps. You know, you just
right. It's easy.
Right.
It wasn't easy back then.
No, back then. I mean, dude, I don't know if you remember, Teague. I mean, you had the freaking ACT test. You had to fill out,
Yep.
You know what I'm saying, for golf stats to do your stats. And
I remember.
Still was like greens of regulation, how many putts you had. I mean, it still wasn't useful.
Yeah. It was just the generic, basic information that most people put the checks and the X's on their scorecard, and you know, and that's where I kind of go back as you get to know different players and you review their games. You know, what stat do you think is the most important? Is it the driving, or I mean, and I know that's going to be different with everybody, but just kind of tell me how you go about using that with the guys that are playing on the next level. They're playing for their livelihood.
Well, I think, I mean, just like anything, if you can start a tournament well and finish it well, you're going to play well. So if you can start a hole well and finish it well, you're going to play well. You know, I know the irons and this, and this, you know, I mean, you have to be strong in those categories, but if you're weak in driving and putting, it's just not going to go well.
Yeah, you have a shot.
Because that's what starts you and that's what finishes you. So, I mean, if you can start and finish, you know, if you can start a hole well and finish a hole well, you're going to do just fine. And so you got to make sure that's not a leak.
Right.
In my opinion, in somebody's game, we have to make one of those a strength.
Well, and that's where, you know, like the drive, chip, and putt.
Right.
I mean, you know, where Augusta did it right, and they just, you know, and came out with this thing because, like you said, you have to start a hole and you have to finish it.
Yeah.
And then you're probably going to have to chip in between, and that better be good too.
Yeah, that better be good
I
too.
mean, what is the caliber of the wedge game that you see out there on the on like this level tour, and knowing that the next level tour is even better because they always talk about the difference between the PGA Tour guys and the Nationwide guys or the Corn Ferry.
Because typically that's the short game, right, Corey? That's kind of different.
Corn Ferry playing on the Nationwide Children's Hospital event.
Yeah.
Said that back then.
Okay.
But I mean, I'll be honest, man. Like, it's not even close.
Really?
Like, it's like even Jared. There was a dude that had been on and off tour. Oh, my bad. We played with Ricky Barnes yesterday.
Ricky Barnes.
Yeah,
okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I know that name.
I mean, just first of all, one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet.
Oh yeah, he was
awesome. And
what a great career he had too. I mean,
yeah. And talk about somebody that, you know, and this is a practice round, right? I mean, you're working on all kinds of stuff. You're doing different things, so you can't really pay too much attention to their ball striking during a practice round. You know, he's got his, you know, headphone in. He's on the phone some, but this and this. So, but I tell you what, you know, Jared pointed out, and I was kind of smiling as I'm watching him. He goes, man, this guy almost chips in every chip, and he's not even trying. And I said, that is the difference. I mean, even at the Barbasol, when they're trying, like at the Barbasol, when they're trying to fill the field, right? They're going down the list as far as they possibly go to some guy who won back in 1988 who may still have a little, who may still be alive.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that dude still comes out and lifts out wedge shots from 70 yards.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's not close. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's where, you know, Jared understands that as well. And like that, his chipping, and it's gotten way better this week out of this thick rough. He's done some great work, but that's got to be on point. Wedges have to be on point. And I mean, even the tournament, he finished second. I mean, dude, he was averaging from 70 yards, like 25 feet.
Right.
Like, that's not good enough.
Yeah, that's not going to cut it.
That got him second from the Corn Ferry.
Right.
You know, but he also putted. I mean, he also gained 4.5, 5 shots on his putter. So
with
that's
the flat, yeah, right. Well, I think, like, you know, when you see that, and it's we see it as viewers and golf fans on TV with just the leaders. And when they're hitting wedge shots, I mean, you know, they're obviously almost making everyone which one. But it really is across the board. I mean, even the guys that are out there grinding and not getting on TV, their wedge games are just by far superior than anything else that you could imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be correct, right?
I'd say what, man?
I mean, it really is.
I just looked up Ricky Barnes, and his wife is far superior than you could probably imagine. Good Lord. Was she there, Corey?
No.
God bless.
Hey, dude, I tell you what, Ricky Barnes is a good-looking guy. His caddy, phenomenal skin.
Yeah, well, I tell you, man.
It's Orville,
You need to
sure.
Google his wife sometime. Holy smokes.
So so Ricky Barnes, I mean, he won like 2 or 3 times on the PGA Tour. He also won a U.S. Amateur.
I was trying to figure that out, but I got
Did he win the
sidetracked.
U.S. Am? I want to say he did, but I could be wrong on that.
I was going to tell you what he did, but then I started looking at his wife. Hang on. I'll find out for you.
Well, I mean, Corey, just kind of like just moving forward with Jared. I mean, obviously next week is his final week on the Korn Ferry Tour, and then he's going to go into the 2022, 2023, or whatever it is. I don't even know how the heck they do this schedule. 2021. I mean, it begins the new golf season in the fall. But what is really cool about this is that because it is stretched out and beginning and there's a lot of golf on TV for 2 months. It also presents opportunities for him to win and maybe even get into the Masters, or him to be able to get in a big jump, like you said, onto qualifying for 125 and playing in the Tour Championship and the FedEx points and however they do all their deals. But what are some of his plans and where is he going to be playing? Have y'all talked about the scheduling for Jarrett? And
Not quite. I know the first one's out in California, out in Napa. So that'll be the first event that he'll play in. But as far as like scheduling that type of stuff, we haven't. I mean, it's just still trying to focus in on this and the next one. Try to play as best he can. I mean, that's a nice thing. It's just for him in moving tours. There's not a lot to. It's not like there's no reinventing the wheel, right? Like there's not a lot of stuff that he's got to change. It's just picking up a few extra type of shots, and then that's it. So really the main focus is trying to pick up a couple of those extra shots that he can have in his arsenal, tighten up the wedges, and then just kind of make sure everything else is kind of at bay, to where he can play his best. And then the biggest thing is just getting comfortable in the scenario.
Right.
Being able to go out there, have one day where you're taking it in and you're at all, and you got these vendors coming up and they give you all this stuff like, okay, well on Monday if you want to go do a massage with you and your wife, you can go do that, like all this stuff they get.
Right.
Being able to manage that, take one day, take it in, and then to be able to get back to what it is that you do week in and week out that helps you get there.
And it's interesting that you said that, because just a couple of weeks back you spoke about one of our players at the Golf Academy who qualified and played in the U.S. Amateur at Oakmont, and that you have coached forever, and basically kind of told him the same thing, but it was 2 days too late. When he
sent me that text that morning and said, "Man, what a great venue," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
And he's in round one, about ready to go tee it off, and Corey's like, "Hey, man, why are you?" I mean, that needed to happen 2 days ago. He didn't tell him this, but him and I had the conversation, and basically, again, he's like, do that day one. Go enjoy yourself. Right now, it's business. I mean, this is how you got here. And again, that kind of goes to the caliber of coach that Corey is. And one of the great things, and I'm going to tell a story on you quickly, Corey. When you and I first kind of got together, and I wasn't Gary, and you
you were always not Gary.
Well, I know I was your ace at that point in time, and saw Corey, and he was coaching. He was coaching a high school golf team and coaching high school girls basketball. Just came off the golf tour, I believe, or something. Some mini tour out in the middle of nowhere, and said, "Hey, I'm interested to be a coach, and I'm going to start teaching golf." And I was like, "Where are you teaching at?" And we ran across each other at Seneca, at one of the local munis here in Louisville. And he told me that he was kind of nomad. And I was like, "Well, let's meet." And him and I got together at Waffle House. And if you remember, one of the very first questions I asked you, I said, "Corey, you're going to teach. I mean, what kind of caliber coach do you want to be? Do you want to be a tour coach? Do you want to be a membership coach? Do you want to be whatever?" And he looked at me, Teague, and he said, "I want to be the best junior golf coach in Kentucky."
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I mean, that just really kind of hit me as a head professional looking for somebody that, to maybe come in and do a director of instruction that I wasn't going to let any of my membership take lessons from. But it was one of those things that I was like, that guy knows exactly where he's going. And, and I could easily sell him to whoever. And what I mean by that is like my board of directors, I had to go in and say, hey, I'm going to bring this guy on, and guess how much rent he's going to pay us?
Yep.
Zero.
Yeah.
And
you gave him my office too.
I took away your office. I took away everybody. I was like, you know what? I'm putting Corey up there.
Yep.
and I'm not saying that to name drop myself, but I am saying that I was dumbfounded, Corey, that day, and just to watch the growth that you and I had made when you were getting started at Oxmoor, and we had all these kids that have qualified for the U.S. Amateur.
Man, it really is.
And all these kids that were coming in and seeing you when we were based out of Oxmoor and kind of starting what was the Golf Academy, and then watching you go and grow the Golf Academy as I sent you packing and got away and got all those gremlins that you had at Spalding University. You're the only golf coach in America that had 20 kids on their golf team. Am I right?
It's true.
I mean, there was 20 kids on this, but and just seeing the growth now and going forward and what we have done over the last few years at the Golf Academy. And one of the reasons that we see the successes is because we got a calculated coach right there as this mad scientist over in the laboratory on the TGA laboratory, and Corey, and seeing this build forward, I think that you're just going to see the successes coming forth.
And we don't talk about the Golf Academy much, but man, it's something it's pretty incredible.
No,
and it's not just Louisville. People are coming from all over the place to come do what you guys do. They're traveling hours, several hours, just to be a part of your all's organization. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And to be honest, definitely couldn't have done it without Snyder and our original or our OG Waffle House meetings, which we still go back to.
We do every 3 years.
Yeah, we still go back and hang out at that Waffle House. And then also, Teague for all the social media stuff.
Sure.
Craig
right.
Simmons has just been fantastic. Musselman, who got me my first spot for the summer out at back then it was U of L, or Cardinal Club. And then right from there I came over to Oxmoor. But man, it's been fun, and it's really cool to see some guys that you work with. I mean, in my opinion, one of my life dreams is always to be on tour. Ever since I was a little kid, my grandfather got me started in golf, and I've always said, once I was playing, I was like, I'm gonna get here one way or another, whether it's through playing or whether it's through coaching. And now it's definitely a backseat role to watch other people achieve their dreams. I mean, I looked at stuff. My wife when they called Jared's name, and I looked at her and she goes, "You're gonna cry," and I'd already started crying. And,
right,
you're already there.
It was just to see somebody work so hard, and somebody that you felt like you've had some influence, or just a small piece of the puzzle. It's not big, but just a small piece of the puzzle, and their dream achieve it. Man, is really cool. And to see these kids that we have, these little kids that we have that you see they have the same want, and the same dreams that, like Cooper Musselman had when I saw him when he was 13, Clay Amlung when he was 12, you see that in their eyes, and you're like, man, how cool would it be? You know what I'm saying? To be able to move them up through the ranks and help them, get back. I'm getting choked up now.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's
awesome.
one of the reasons why I, left my career to go join ACE is that, the opportunities to see these kids grow and move to chase their dreams, whether it's to play on their high school team, once they get on their high school team to play collegiately. Those that want to play after college are taking on a lot of responsibility, and especially in a really, a grind. I mean, a tough game that is not going to give you any consistency. But
Yeah.
and everybody doesn't even really factor that in. But to see their growth is something that we do at the Golf Academy. And again, like you said, Teague, I try not to talk about the Golf Academy.
Yeah,
because
we've
this
avoided
is something
it. I know.
that I do professionally, and this is something that I'm trying to do for fun and try to make it
for sure.
bring the game forth. And but I can just tell you that we are speaking with one of the best golf professionals that is not a professional, not a PGA professional, the best golf coach in Kentucky, one of the greatest that is junior golf coaches that I've ever been around, and definitely a calculated coach. And Corey, I appreciate your time. Good luck this afternoon out there. This is your last day, right?
Yeah. Don't worry. I'll be home tomorrow. I'll be home tonight.
We need you back. We need you back. It's been hot, and I mean, but we got you, pro. We got you.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it, man. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Corey.
All right.
What a Corey call right there, bro.
Yeah, hey, that was good, man.
That was.
And especially with the timing with Jared just getting his tour card for next year. That was pretty cool.
Playing the McKenzie course too. I mean, the Scarlet course, I was fortunate enough to play there once, and it was at a PGA school, and I went to, they used to do them at all these different regional places, and I tested out and had a pass and was able to go play the Scarlet course and get on. And I mean, in the history that's there, that you could only window shop because the place was not open at that time, but with Jack Nicklaus being there, John Cook. I mean, some of the greats in the game of golf have all played at Ohio State, and they have a fantastic golf program. That's whole base right there.
Like it.
And what a great golf course. So Jared Wolff is the man.
He is the man.
Wouldn't it be great to see him win, not this week, but the following week in Evansville, Indiana?
Yes, because it's close to home.
Right.
But I hope he does well on the tour.
Oh, I think he will. I mean, I what Corey said about translating from 200 yards is really, that's an important part of the PGA Tour. And when you look at those guys and the strokes gained, I mean, they're going to move themselves up. But I really, he's had a fantastic year. And again, Korn Ferry is very similar to the PGA Tour Teague, where they start the year in September as soon as the Tour Championship and kind of go through. And Jarrett got a couple of wins early. And then, like Corey said, he wasn't in jeopardy of falling out of the top 25 because those wins were big.
But it was trending the wrong way.
But he was trending, right? And then, somewhere about midsummer when they picked that low-hanging fruit and he went all floaty on him.
All floaty.
I mean,
the diggy shot.
Yeah, when he did that. I mean, to see Jarrett's play over the last few weeks and just kind of moving himself back up to where it's,
it's pretty awesome.
Inevitable that he's going to get that. And then making, because of his finish, making some starts. So these guys right here, they're playing for the next level of like how many starts they get.
Right.
There's still some sort of like formula that the PGA Tour uses. Right. And so, if he
goes and does well, he's going to get, like you said, into more events.
Right.
So Joey just texted, says he's, I don't know what this means. Says he's hanging with Lori Davies. I wonder what he's
hanging out with Lori Davies.
What Joey's doing with Lori Davies? That's a big woman.
You know what? You do not have to look for a lot of golf balls if you're coming for her, because she's hitting it right down the. I mean, Lori Davies, when she comes
British?
up here, oh yes, she is British, and I mean, she has always. Because she is British, she plays at Links Golf. How many times have you seen her bang the tee box?
I bet
and then
she's
put the ball right on top of the divot.
I bet she's got some language you've never heard.
Oh, Lori?
I bet she says some crazy stuff.
I bet. I mean, she was.
I could just imagine.
Man, what a great player. I mean,
she was a good player.
Yeah, you look up her record. I mean, she has to have like more than 10 majors, I would have to think. 8 majors.
I don't know. I'll find out.
We'll have to find that out. But yeah, I mean, I think that event, if you're a golf fan and, here's the great thing about where the game is, the women's game. The women's game over the last 20 years has grown significantly versus when Lori Davies played. I think what Annika did during that time, to where she kind of, it caught golf at the right moment.
Right.
Tiger Woods was on the scene. Tiger was dominating. He's popping out. Here comes Annika. Yeah. Oh, she's the greatest player ever. Then all of a sudden, the golf ratings go up because Tiger's in the field, and then Annika plays in the Colonial down in Texas, and the women's game has elevated since that moment.
Yeah.
And so, obviously Annika's not playing in this. She's the legend of all legends. But
Now, that
to go
probably
up
would have
there
got you a crowd.
Yeah, well, I mean, Meg McCann's in the field. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
that's
seen
right.
her. I've seen all these ladies on Facebook that Dave Harner, who is the PGA director of golf at the French Lick Resort, has posted where they're out and about and they're going through southern Indiana playing great golf courses, helping out with kids.
Which is great.
And so like it kind of goes like this week. Let's just real quick highlight the Curtis Cup this week.
Okay.
And the Curtis Cup is, if you're not familiar with what's going on in the world of golf, the Curtis Cup is the women's amateur annual, or not annual, biannual, every 2 years that they play the Curtis Cup, featuring the best players from Great Britain and Ireland versus America. And there is, really, they're playing in Wales this week, Teague.
Yep.
The field is, pretty even, but the Americans are going to dominate. You know why?
Because they're Americans.
That's right, baby.
America.
That's why your cousin T-Rock from the block. There is I cannot remember the name of this girl, and I was trying to find it before we got that curveball, and so I'm not even going to attempt to tell you who it is, but she played for UK, and she won the U.S. Women's Amateur this year.
Okay, yeah.
She is on the team. Please look that up for
I'll
me,
find
Teague.
it, too. I got all kinds of stuff
She
I'm gonna
won
rattle
the
up.
U.S. Women's Amateur this year, and she is on the team. Also on the team is the two best amateur players in the world, and they're both teenagers. And that is for Team America, Rose Zhang and Rachel Heck, and they are both going to Stanford University. So Stanford is just always stacked in
They've
golf.
always been good, though.
I mean,
man.
is it the Tiger Woods effect?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it has to be, right? And you're in Northern Cali, you're in San Francisco playing.
Jensen Castle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For UK, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, she is on the American team as well as the U.S. Amateur champion. And on the British side, the RNA women's amateur, and she had just came off a top 10 finish at the women's open last week, is Louise Duncan. And I actually watched that final 9. It was on Carnoustie, which is a historic golf course across the links, in Scotland. It's right across the bay from St. Andrews. Did you have an opportunity to play Carnoustie?
Oh, yeah.
When you were there? Yeah. And this is the site of Hogan's only victory in the game of golf. And so, and John Vandevelde.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like, man, we should have talked about that a little bit last week.
All you remember is how he gave it away.
Oh, in the burn right there at the very final. And there was a ball that was hit on the final day that went into the burn, and she was like in the third group. She wasn't going to win it. I can't remember, and it was one of them. She wasn't a French lady, but it would have been ironic if she was. But it went into the burn, bounced out, went on to the green.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
how about that?
How about some
and
golf
Annika
gods?
Annika Norvequest won it. Nordequest, right?
Yeah.
She won it. It was her third major, Teague. She's from Sweden. She was the next Annika.
Man, you know a lot about women's golf.
Huh? Well, you know what I found it fascinating over the last 20 years that the women's game has just blown up.
It has blown up.
And, as a golf coach and coaching at, the Golf Academy in my profession, seeing these girls have the same thing that Corey was talking about in their
that's
eye.
a good point because you guys get a ton of females there. I mean,
Right.
it actually kind of surprises me how many girls come to the Golf Academy, but there is a huge need, and there's a huge when I say need, there is a lot of women's golf scholarships that goes unused. I know Corey has told me a couple times that colleges will call and be like,
Yeah.
hey, you got anybody can break 80?
Right.
And it's because we've got some money we've got to use. So it's interesting because there's a lot of money out there for women's golf.
Right. And the women's game has definitely grown because of the athletic I would say the Title IX effect.
Yeah.
All the schools that put that money and scholarship out there in the Title IX for women's sports, you have seen it through soccer. You have seen it grow through volleyball. Think of softball, all of them. And
Sure.
then when they have the opportunity to come and play golf and seeing that they can use their athleticism and dominate a sport. I mean, you see that at the top level. I mean, you
Yeah.
see that with Lydia Ko and her success. You see that with, as a phenomenal teenage player
Right.
that translated to the professional game. You just see it more often. And now, I mean, like I said, I mean, you got these two girls. You got Gina Kim, who is a senior at Duke University. She won the North-South Amateur to kind of get onto the Curtis Cup team. But what she's been focusing on is just turning pro.
Yeah.
And she just went out and she skipped the U.S. Women's Amateur because she knew she was on the team and went out to the LPGA qualifying school, and she was medalist there.
There you go.
I mean, and so, you see this in this Louise Duncan, and going backwards to Carnoustie, she has game. She's 21 years old, from England. So with it being there, I mean, obviously this is going to be weather depending. I mean, and what you get, but really the Americans are stacked. But it is in the home soil, so you kind of get that Ryder Cup feel. And this is a great year for essentially patriotism on the golf course.
Oh yeah,
think about it. I mean, we've had the Walker Cup that was at Seminole back in May. We've had all the major championships where you get the flag on the board. We've had the Olympics.
Yep.
And then now we've had, the Curtis Cup. The Solheim Cup is going down. And guess what else is going down?
Ryder Cup.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So
It's
there
coming
is
quick.
a lot of good golf. And speaking of the Ryder Cup, let's just go real quickly of what happened last week on the PGA Tour and kind of bounce into there and then wrap this show up because me and you got stuff to do today.
Yeah, that's right.
But congratulations, Tony Finau. I mean, what
Yeah,
about
first
this
win.
dude?
Pretty awesome. So my cousin Jordan, who's Mr. Fantasy Golf, has been playing Tony a lot. And he keeps telling me he's going to win, he's going to win, he's going to win. And then finally, he kind of broke through and got that win. I mean,
He's on top of the leaderboards all the time.
You got to
with
feel
Rim.
good for the guy. He's got so much game. He's always there. And it kind of felt like, he may choke every time he's in it. But maybe this gets the monkey off his back. Maybe this opens up the door to where he can go dominate because he's got the game to dominate.
Well, I mean, he's been, the win that he got on tour 5 years ago was kind of an off event.
It was.
Yeah. And
so it's been like 2,000 days since he's won.
And it wasn't against the best players.
Right.
It was against the secondary players.
Yep.
But I mean, it gave him the opportunity to get on there. And here's the thing. Tony Finau does not have to worry about ever making a cut. I mean,
He's always there.
And I mean, he's always there. He's always balling on top of the leaderboard. He's always got that, that presence that Corey was talking about that, hey, we're going to grind this out and, we're starting the hole off good and we're finishing the hole off good. And when you look at what he has done in major competitions, that's where we're looking at Tony Finau and saying, hey, is the monkey off your back? I mean, are you going to be able to step up? Yeah, we're going to be able to see it.
I'll be honest with you. The only thing that I'd really remembered from Tony Finau is when he hurt himself in the Masters par 3.
After the hole-in-one.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's like my major memory of Tony Finau.
And I remember that well, and I remember him manning up and saying, hey, you know what? Give me some of this. You know what he used?
Stamina Pro.
Joey Wagner. I mean, there's another guest that we got to get on. We're going to start getting guests on.
Joey be a good guy.
We're going guest driven in the first 20. Let's do it. I mean, now this is game 17, and we have proven that me and you are going to get together and talk about golf and talk about people.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, but he used that Stamina Pro and taped it up and went out there and played at Augusta, which is one of the hilliest golf courses on tour, if not the hilliest.
Yeah, he was probably
course.
in some pain. And actually, I don't remember. I think he made the cut. I just remember getting hurt. Honestly,
Here's the thing. Tony, you won, but it was Liberty National. It was a birdie fest going on, and guess what? You had a day off when the golf course definitely changed after 9 inches. And so again, I'm for you.
Point.
I'm for
There's
you.
An
but
asterisk there.
It's not really an asterisk because he was the final one and he got the dub. And I mean, there's no asterisk. I mean, you got to play that. But in my mind, I was looking forward to that Sunday. Cameron Smith coming off a 60. Setting a course record on Saturday. They were blazing this golf course. It was running, it was fast, and then all of a sudden, it goes to 9 inches of rain, and they got the golf course open. And side note to all the superintendents of the world, I don't care if you're a superintendent at your local muni executive 6-hole golf course or at Victoria National or Augusta National.
Right.
Those guys and their crew and what they do on a daily basis for the game of golf, superb.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean, they are, what a profession. I mean, there is a profession that goes unnoticed and ungratified for sure because nobody knows who you are, and only time you're ever going to hear about it is when they have a bad experience. So, seeing their grounds crew go out there and work and do what they did, Teague, was fantastic. So, Tony.
And I got a quick question for you, Josh, before we move on, because, being a highly sought after golf coach like you are, we mentioned how the female game has changed and how there's so much college scholarships for female players. What's too late to get started? If let's say you're a dad and you're like, man, I need to get my daughter out there, but guess what? She's been into volleyball. She was into softball.
Right. Great question.
What's too late to start?
I'm going to say, I'm going to have to say 15. I mean, because, when they're going into their junior year, they need to be prepared to
So
do
high school's not too late to start?
High school is not too late.
See, that's
now, you
interesting
can
to
come
hear.
into the game, you can learn it, and then you have to go play on a competitive level. And as I tell all the parents, and whether I'm teaching the kids that I've been fortunate enough to teach at the U.S. Amateur or the 6-year-olds,
Right.
hey, afterwards they got to be able to go to you and say, hey, you know what, that was fun. I don't know, whatever I shot, I want to do that again, Dad.
Yeah.
And if they can continue to do that and play on the competitive side, they will see their game go up.
Right.
So, I would say, if they're a junior, they're not going to be recruited by Alabama and Kentucky and U of L. I mean, unless they just jump on there and they go play in a big event and they just win it.
I get that, but we're talking about scholarship money. So you could start in high school and you can still make it happen.
Right. And I think I've told the story when I hosted the Big East Championship before, and if I haven't told it on this, I've told it many times. I was fortunate enough to host the Big East Championship over at Elksmore Country Club, and you and I rolled it out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that was
yeah,
awesome.
we did. I mean, one of my... Sorry, going off on this, but Tom George came up to me and was like, "Hey," he had his turtleneck on, and he was like, "I just want to thank you." And
Yeah,
and I mean,
pretty
to me,
cool.
it was cool, man.
We killed that event,
dude.
though.
We killed that event, and Tom George was the man. And as a Kentucky fan, I love some Tom George. I mean, both ways now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But anyways, going back to your question, I was just amazed at like a team like St. John's or Connecticut.
Yeah.
They had one girl that could break 80, and they had 4 girls that shot 86.
It's crazy.
And I never would have expected that. Now, that was in 2007. I would say, in the course of the last 13 years, that has changed.
Oh, it has to.
I mean, now these girls are probably all breaking 80.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're dealing with athletes. So, it's not too late to start the game. I mean, the great thing about the game of golf is that it is one that is going to last a lifetime. It is one that you're going to play in the business world. It's one that you're going to play when your knees give out on the old man basketball league.
Amen.
I mean, it's just the greatest game in sport.
Yep.
And so I would definitely highly encourage the girls that want to play and want to tackle the additional 20 hours that it takes to play competitive golf on the next level.
Yep.
Whether it's NAIA, Division 3, 2, or 1, that, if they want to do that.
There's opportunities
there's
out there.
opportunities
That's
out
the
there.
thing.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And so, going to
I just had
opportunities
to
out
ask.
there. Yeah. We last week at the Liberty National, we trimmed the field, and this is where the FedEx Point standings kind of matter. And I do like the fact that, they'll flash it up on TV, even though I could care no F's about it.
Yeah, it's still kind of weird how that whole point system works to me, but I'm with you. I don't really care either.
Yeah. Now
I do know that Justin Thomas won $10 million winning it. But
hey, and I know Justin Thomas, my pick last week, as I was a singular pick, he was right there.
He was right there.
I was expecting him to be the guy that shot 60 and tied Cam Smith on the last day. He changed to putter. I also talked to you about last week about him being with his putting coach and his putting coach being back in his home state. Made a putter change, went back to a no gamer and rolled the rock, which is great to see because it's really what he's been working on.
And that's his game. That's what he was better than everybody. Was putting.
He's always been one of the top on the strokes game putting, but in probably his mind, he's a streaky putter,
right?
But whatever. The main thing is with the field being trimmed and going. Now we got 70 players.
Yep.
There was a couple of players that made, like Corey was talking about, with a guy winning, and making a double on the last hole or whatever. I mean, when they have shots that matter coming down the last day, and we're watching on TV, it's great drama.
So John Rahm's still your top pick.
Right.
Shoffley's 2, Spieth's 3, Thomas is 4, Justin Johnson's 5, Koepka's 6.
Yeah, and we're talking about this week's BMW Championship at Caves Valley Golf Club, which is outside of Baltimore. This is the first time the tour has stopped in Baltimore in 60 years, Teague.
Nice.
60 years.
I wonder if they'll get a good turnout. I'm sure they will.
This will, yeah. This golf club, Caves Valley, is going to be making, obviously, the first national appearance on TV for the PGA Tour. It's going to have the majority of attention, but has hosted, 2 NCAAs, U.S. Mid-Am. I mean, is one of the great golf courses in America. Is ultra exclusive. Everything's perfect at the Caves.
Yep.
And it is one that is going to be, like all Tom Fazio golf courses, you got to drive it off the tee because the approach in, and if you can be up in the top of half of the field, the strokes gain on the approach, you're going to have a significant advantage of putting from the right tiers.
Yep.
Fazio guy is like Belterra. Have you played Belterra?
I have played Belterra. I love that place.
Yeah, I mean, you got to drive the ball well, and then you don't have to putt well at Belterra, but you have to drive the ball well, and you got to be able to hit the ball onto the right green.
Yep.
Because he's got big quadrants right there, and it's, he makes a very fair golf course. So there'll be a lot of birdies this week, Teague. And, I think that you'll see, especially if the conditions stay as they are. And, I mean, they had some rain up in the Northeast, but it's so hot that it's going to dry out. This one has a chance to go low. Obviously, the rough is going to be kind of the only defense,
right.
I would have to say. I mean, and so I'm excited to see these players play out. I mean, John Rahm is the best player in the world right now, period.
Well, I mean, that's why he's at the top of the list. So who's your pick?
Who's your pick?
So I tell you what, normally I think you want to stay away from a guy that wins because there's going to be a whole lot of new stuff going on. He's going to be doing interviews. He's going to be doing talk shows. But I'm doubling down on Finau this week.
Ooh.
I don't know why.
I like that.
Something's telling me to double down on Finau. And then as far as a long shot, there's a guy down at the bottom you get some value out of if you're doing DraftKings or whatever. His name's Harry Higgs. I think Harry, he finished top 15 last week in the Northern Trust. He's been trending the right direction. I think Harry Higgs is a good play to do some damage.
Well, you look at it, I mean, we're going from 70 to 36 or 30. The top 30 move on to Eastlake, right? So, I mean, there's going to be some guys that are in that area not the front runners. The guys, and I don't really know, and again, one of the curveballs, I didn't get a chance to look at that, but between 30 and 69 because Patrick Reed's not in the field. Okay. So he's not in the field. 30 to 69. Who is the big name that needs to play well this week to move on to Eastlake? And you know who that guy is?
Tell me.
I'm going to say Phil Mickelson.
So let me see. So Phil is...
And he played halfway decent last week.
Let's see. I'm going to try to see where Phil's at. Phil's 70th on the list.
Right. He barely got in, right?
Interesting.
So he had enough to get, and I expect Phil to move up the board.
He's a gamer.
I'm gonna put Phil at Caves in Baltimore. Being a Raven himself.
I like it.
I do. I mean, I kind of like to see Phil make his way to Eastlake because he has played Eastlake well, and he's one of those names. So that's my long shot. Obviously, I like the top of the board, Teague. Am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I am right. And, on top of the board, it's going to be hard not to have Brooks Koepka on your major play.
Yeah, man.
The guy has been in his last 12 starts, he's been in the top six times.
Do you know where he's at on the FedEx list?
No.
15th.
Yeah. So he doesn't have to play. Yeah. Well, I mean,
he's down a little bit further than I would expect.
Yeah, I guess if he doesn't play well, he can miss it, right? I mean, there's obviously that chance. I mean, that he plays himself out. I mean, yeah. So this is where the FedEx points make sense.
Yep.
To me. I mean, but when they flash it in the middle of May and Justin Thomas is the leader of the FedEx Point Cup standing.
Well, right, because
cares?
now we're in the point where it's actually the FedEx stuff.
Well, you get all these points for major play.
Yeah.
Major play. And so, I look at Brooks and what he's done over the last few weeks, and he's the perfect guy. I mean, he drives the ball phenomenally well. He's going to hit it in there. He's a streaky putter, but I mean, he's been putting it better, and I would say that he's going to be my horse for the course if I'm looking at the top half. Yeah. But from the dark, I'm going to go with his rival on that historic day in May, Phil Mickelson, when he was just walking the shores and just creating it. So
let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Hey, big shout out too before we end this show to anybody that's still listening. Number one,
that made it 52 minutes.
52 minutes. Whereas we're trying to wrap this thing up in our 54-minute timeline, which we'll go over every now and then. But big shout out to anybody that's listening, and also to the section Kentucky Section PGA, some of my fellow PGA professionals who qualified for the National Club Pro Championship.
Yeah.
It was held down at Bowling Green Country Club, which is a historic a great golf course.
Great golf course.
And Andrew Stevens, which a Northern Kentucky golf pro. He owns a range. He was the winner over Keith Orr in a playoff.
Well, Keith's been a gamer for a long time.
Keith Orr played the head professional at Lake Forest Country Club. And then also qualifying for the national championship was Blake Watts, Wildwood Country Club. Okay. Oh, Bling Bling himself.
There you go, Blake.
And Grover Justice Justice,
Yeah.
who runs
Shoosh.
a golf academy now in Lexington.
I've
Bluegrass.
played a few times with Grover. He can play,
one of the
man.
best players in the state of Kentucky
he can
ever.
play, period.
And so, congratulations to those 4 gentlemen. I appreciate everything that you do for the game of golf, and really look forward to watching these guys go down and play at Tom Fazio Golf Course at the new headquarters for the PGA of America in Frisco, Texas.
So they moved it from
They
Port St.
have
Lucie?
moved it next
Wow,
year.
okay.
They have moved everything from Port St. Lucie. Built
Interesting.
this whole new PGA campus.
I didn't realize that.
Oh, it's going to be spectacular. I mean, it is really a state-of-the-art facility from the PGA of America. It's something that, as a PGA professional, I was telling you a few weeks back, I mean, sometimes I don't feel like a PGA professional, but as a PGA professional, I'm extremely excited to see the growth that they're going to have coming out of this area. And it's a centralized based. I mean, there was a lot of people, Teague, that talked about, the Florida and the traditions and everything. But, the Florida was great for one time a year, but it was very hard for a West Coast guy.
Sure.
So, being
a little more
centralized,
central. Yeah.
I think it's going to be a great move. They're building 2 golf courses there. It's going to be a host site for the PGA of America, so they'll be able to double in on their money. I'm sure they'll put a Ryder Cup and double in on their money again.
Awesome.
At some point in time, they will never pay me, but maybe they offer me some benefits or something like that. I'd like to have some health care or something. Come on.
Amen to
PGA
that.
of America, let's
Come
go.
on, PGA.
Hey, congratulations, you boys. Thank you all for listening.
Hey,
check us out on YouTube. Check us out on podcasts
Yeah.
or Spotify. Go ahead, T. You tell
Lori
me.
Davis had 4 majors, but 80-something wins worldwide. And Ricky Barnes did win the U.S. Amateur.
Thank you. So good job. That was
that one.
Rain Man type stuff.
was
Except for
Rain
10
Man.
majors on her. But I mean, I'm sure if you look at her amateur status, she probably made
80
someday.
plus wins worldwide.
A lot
though.
of things. Hey, check us out on all of our pages: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Loopers for Life. Our podcast is on Spotify. We're on Apple. Check us out. Powered by Talgrace Marketing Media. We're out.
Let's go.